Hi, Chapter 8 of The Dirt Bike Racer. I could hardly fall asleep on Saturday night. My mind was on Sunday's meet, on the tracks and on the competition, but mainly on the steep hill. Would I make it, or would I spill and let all that practice go to waste? I could hardly hear the laugh certain people would get out of it if I did. Sometime after midnight I fell asleep. I knew it was late because I heard the big clock in the living room bong 12 times. The next morning my mother's call got me out of bed. I was half asleep as I dressed, pulling my clothes on just from force of habit. I didn't feel like eating. My stomach just wasn't up to it. You had better get something inside your stomach, my mother said, or you'll be so weak by the time the race you won't be able to twist your throttle grip. Have a bowl of cereal. Maybe it will scatter away those butterflies and you'll be able to eat more. I had the cereal, but it didn't do much about scattering away the butterflies. My father was sitting across from me, a faint grin on his face. He had not shaved yet this morning, and he looked like a friendly hobo. Feeling nervous about what you're going to do is normal, he said. But if you want to be in mini bike meets, you'll have to make the break sometime. All those kids you'll be competing with had to go through the same thing. It's another price you have to pay for what you do and what you want to do. I suppose he was right, but that didn't help to scatter the butterflies either. I guess that's something I had to live with for a while anyway. I couldn't believe the crowd that was already there when we got to Turtleback Hill. The parking lot before you entered the gate was already half filled. When we stopped at the gate and paid our fees, the girl who gave my father the tickets looked at me. You competing in a meet? Yes. You had better get a move on if you want some practice, she said. It's almost 10 o'clock and the first meet starts at 11:15. I looked toward the track where the loud, mixed, roaring sounds of bikes were coming from, and got a glimpse of about 6 bikes bunched together as they came sweeping around a curve, dust and gravel spraying from their wheels. Where do I sign up? I asked nervously. She pointed towards a mobile trailer that was parked close by. There, where you see that, kid? The girl said. A canvas roof had been placed in front of the trailer under which a couple of people sat at a table. A kid about my age was talking to them. Thanks, I said. My father drove the car in and parked it in front of a row of trees where over half a dozen cars were already parked. He helped me unload the Johnny Joe. I wheeled it to the trailer and signed up in the senior mini class. One of your parents has to sign too, the woman who was handling the entry blank said. I must have looked surprised because immediately her stunned face broke into a smile. Gee, I hope you brought one of them with you, she said, or a legal guardian even. You're not allowed. Oh, my parents came with me all right, I informed her. I just didn't realise that one of them had to sign too, that's all. I called my father over and he signed his name on the entry blank. Thank you, the woman said to him, smiling, and here is Ronnie's number, 121. It's like a bib. Just slip it over his head and onto his shoulders and paste a sticker on his helmet. She handed him a sticker with my number on it. Now, give me the entry fee and we'll be all set. Oh, you had better get into your practice, Ronnie. You have until 11 o'clock. The meet starts at 11:15. I know, I said. I waited for my father to lay the bib over my shoulders, showing the number on my chest and back. Then he pasted the sticker onto my helmet. I haven't seen you before, the woman went on, her eyes fastened on me. Is this your first meet? Yes. I hope it's the beginning of many more, she said pleasantly. Good luck, Ronnie. Thanks, I said. I think I'll need it. The man sitting next to her cut in. Before you do anything else, you have to have your bike inspected. Ron, old boy. Oh, I looked at him. He had a stubble of beard that was almost as long as his very short hair. I had hardly recognised him. It was Casey Jones, the track owner. "Oh, hi, Mr. Jones." Who does that? I felt a prickle of fear course through me. Suppose my bike didn't pass the inspection. "I do that," he said. He sprang up from the table at which he was sitting, a pile of papers in front of him, and started to examine my bike from end to end. "Looks like a lot of new parts on it," he observed. Did it yourself?" "No, a friend helped me." "Whoever it was did a nice job." "Mike Franco," I said. "Maybe you know him." His face lit up. "I sure do. That boy knows what he's doing. He's also a darn good rider. He'll be here today." "I know," I said. The inspection didn't take long. "Well," he said, when he was finished, "your bike's okay, Ron. Good luck and have fun." I looked around at my father and mother. I don't know whether it was pride or concern that I read on their faces, maybe a little bit of both. "Well, son," said my father as he put out his hand, "this is it. I know what else to say except good luck." We shook hands. "That's all I need," I said. "And the same from me," said my mother, "and I'll keep my fingers crossed too." I wheeled the Johnny Joe towards the wide gate and led to the starting point. From the corner of my eye I spotted a dark pair of pants and a cane, and my heart sprang to my throat. "Mr. Perkins!" I suddenly thought. I stopped in my tracks and looked up, but in a flash I saw that it wasn't Mr. Perkins at all. The man didn't even look like Mr. Perkins. It was just the dark pants and cane that had briefly caught my attention. As I started by him, he flashed a warm smile at me. "Hi, Buster," he said. "Nice bike you have there." "Thank you," I said. I went by him, still thinking about Mr. Perkins and the stories he'd told me about his racing days. I didn't think I'd ever meet anyone or another man as interesting as he was. Next to my father came Mr. Perkins and my list of great men I knew personally. I admired and liked him, I really did. I entered the starting gate, started the engine of my bike, and let it warm up by twisting the throttle grip back and forth. I looked at the steep hill in front of me and felt a lump crawl up into my throat. If I didn't make that hill during practice, I might as well disqualify myself. I sat there a minute telling myself that I had to make it. A positive mental attitude is important. I had to get myself in that frame of mind or I'd be a dead duck. After a while I felt ready with the engine in first gear. I took off. The bike almost left me sitting there on the dirt as it sprang under me like a live animal. I hung on and ploughed up the hill, the noise of the engine roaring in my ears. The bike bucked and bounced and a couple of times and it skidded to the side so much that I almost lost my balance and fell, but I managed to keep it upright, using my feet to balance it when I felt leaning over too far. Little by little, the Johnny Joe edged forward, dirt and gravel crackling against the inside of the small fenders. At last I reached the top. From there it was smooth sailing. Well, maybe not smooth, but it was far less grueling than that first climb. I rode around the track a few times, quitting just after an announcement was made that all riders clear the track. Outside of the side of the starting gate, I saw a couple of bright faces that gave me a morale boost. Tony and Mike Franco. Mike was wearing his riding gear, leather jacket and pants, and high buckled boots, and carrying his helmet. "Hey, you ride like that, baby, like a pro," Mike said. "Sure I do," I answered. "I wish you'd get a Mini too, Tony. I'd feel better with a buddy on the track." Tony shrugged. "Don't worry about it. After today, you'll pick up a lot of new friends. Especially if they all leave me eating their dust," I said. They laughed. "I'm thirsty," I said. "Want to share a soda with me?" "Why not?" said Tony. "You two go ahead," said Mike. "I'm going to sign up." Tony and I had a soda at the concession stand. We had hardly had a couple of sips of our drinks when a girl's voice announced over the PA system, "All riders competing in the Junior Mini, please get to the starting gate at once." I almost dropped my bottle on the counter. "Wow, already?" I cried. "Hold it," Tony said, grabbing my arm. "You're in the Senior Mini, aren't you?" I relaxed. "That's right," I said, my heart pounding. "I guess I'm nervous, all right." We walked to the fence and watched the junior mini race. The kids in this meet ranged in age of 7 to 10 years, and the way they rode their bikes was something. Those little guys had guts. But Tony and I rooted for a real small kid who may have just reached his 7th birthday. He had trouble making the hill and was the last one up, but he struggled hard after that, the round and the S-curves and the hills, and wound up in 4th place. Our meet came up next. Tony wished me luck. Then my mother and father and Mike came over and wished me luck too. I figured that if luck had a lot to do with winning, I should have come out near the top. I headed for my bike and was within a dozen feet of it when I saw 2 guys examining it from a couple of feet away. I stared in surprise. One was Mark Laverne. The other was a rider about my size, wearing number 111. "Hi, Mark," I said. "I didn't know you were interested in bike races." "I am in this one," he said. He started to turn away, then said over his shoulder, "One way or another, Ron, I'm going to make you stop seeing my uncle." He nudged the kid next to him and he walked away, but I didn't miss the smirk that came over his rider's face first. I stood there a while, frozen by Mark's statement. If I had ever heard a threat, that was one. What did he figure on doing? I couldn't even guess, unless he had that kid, number 111, in his plans. I would just have to wait and see. I got on my bike, started it, and rode it through the starting gate. The engine sounded a little rough, and right away I wondered if the guys had tampered with it. I throttled it loudly a few times, and it cleared up. I took a glance over my shoulder and saw Mark talking to his friend who was mounting his bike. It turned out that the kid was in the same race as me. He was one of the other 6 riders lined up beside me. I tried to brush the thought of him out of my mind. After all, how could he be a threat to me in a race? Seconds later, I began to feel more nervous than ever as crazy thoughts flooded my mind. Supposing my engine conked out before I reached the hill, or suppose I spilled before I got halfway up. I tried to forget those fears and glanced over my shoulder at Mike and Tony and my parents. They waved to me, and I waved back. "Okay, riders," yelled the starter, his gun raised. "Get ready." Our engines were humming. My heart was pounding. This was it, I thought. Bang went the gun, and we took off. Up till now, I'd never sat close to more than 1 roaring engine my own. Now there were 7 in all, and the sound was something like the roar of an aeroplane. We headed for the hill, reached its base, and started up. My bike hopped like a wild rabbit as we climbed, my rear end off the seat as often as it was on. Fear gripped me that I would never make it, that I would spill any minute, or that my bike would break apart. End of chapter 8.